My pleasure.
Yeah. So, first off, from your vantage point, I feel like just the idea of WCW, I think, is just I've seen this. I feel like I've felt this resurgence in interest and popularity over the years. I don't know if that's something that you've felt. I mean, there's been times where nostalgia's been here and there, but I feel like right now we're starting to really dig into it. Is that something that you're feeling? And if so, just what do you think it is that right now that's happening?
Well, it really never got a proper send off. People are okay if you air. I'm going to date myself ridiculously now. Well, I'm going to change what I was going to say. I was going to say the last Mash, but if you give them the last Seinfeld or the last, I'm still dating myself. The last episode of Friends or what's on now that just ended. I don't know. I don't watch a lot of TV, but 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 you get my point. If you give them a close and they feel like, okay, I saw this till the end and I could walk away from it, they're not happy about it. They may watch reruns, and you may get together and make a movie, or a limited TV series reunion. But they feel most people feel satisfied by that. Just 1 week, we got 2 days notice that there was the last Nitro showed up in Panama City, and that was it. So I think that the people really never got any completion and any satisfaction at seeing it through. Even the ones, look, there were a lot that we lost at the end, but the ones that stayed certainly, didn't get any completion or a finish. And the ones that we lost, they still remember the glory days of, the NWO and Sting coming down from the rafters and all that crazy DDP and all that crazy stuff. So it's a lot of nostalgia, but a lot of the fact that I don't think it ever got a proper send off.
Yeah, for sure. And how is it for you to kind of see this explosion of popularity? I know we have this Glory Days Grapple Con 2 coming up on March 29th that you're a part of. A lot of familiar and fun faces a part of that show. But how is it for you? Do you feel some sort of gratification, appreciation? Take me through what this means to you to kind of see that I'm sure it must be interesting to see when kids come up to you and things and be like, my dad showed me Nitro, and now I'm, a huge fan and talk a little bit about that.
It's crazy. Never my wildest dreams. I'm just so blessed to have gotten my chance to live my dream. I wrote 2 books recently with Guy Evans, who's the author of the Nitro book, and each one has a ton of like backstage, how the sausage is made, formats, info, old, rare, never before seen memos that were sent out to the wrestlers. The XWF business plan, the last Nitro format, the format from Ric Flair's last match pay per view. Anyway, but part of it, is that, and part of it is, tells my story. And I wasn't supposed to make it. I came in at a time that you just didn't make it if you weren't a wrestler. And uh, Jody Hamilton, the masked assassin, saw something in me that wasn't there. But thank God he did and gave me the opportunity. And I took it from there with a lot of help from a lot of other people. But but yeah, it's crazy. I remember I went to I took my kids are adults, but I went to a Game Changer Wrestling. It was right after COVID. WrestleMania was in Tampa. They didn't have a full stadium, but Game Changer was running 3 days outside. And my adult kids are big Game Changer fans. So I reached out to Brett Lauderdale, who I had never really talked to before. And I said, yeah, man, any way I could get my kids some passes. And he said, only if you come and open the one of the shows. I will introduce you and put you over you up on one of the shows. And in the process of talking to him, he's like, yeah, I used to do the David Penzer voice. I'm like, what's the David Penzer voice? It's like, I used to imitate you doing the intros. And I'm like, no, you didn't. And totally blown away. And, since I've been on Twitter, I've heard that, more times than I would ever imagine. It's absolutely crazy. But it's a huge honor. And by the way, Game Changer, Brett Lauderdale might be a fan, but when I went out there and did my welcome, you could hear a pin drop. They
Aw,
shit all over it because they didn't know who I was and they didn't care. And that's fine. It's life will humble you at certain times. But no, if I never do it again, I'd love to come out and I love to come out and do these fan fests, just like I'm doing at the end of the month at Grapple Con, Glory Days Grapple Con 2. We're going to have a whole WCW panel. Arn Anderson, Nikita Koloff, NWO Sting. I don't know that I've ever seen him do an interview. I'm looking forward to catching up with my old friends, Dutch Mantel, who's a great storyteller, and a lot more. You could go on Facebook and check them out. Glory Days Grapple Con. Um, and but yeah, I'm looking forward to hosting the panel. 2 hours we're talking WCW with some of the people with the people who live. One of the things about writing the books and at davidpenzerbook.com. Davidpenzerbook.com. Sorry for the cheap plug. I appreciate it. Uh, but but yeah, one of the cool things was like, Charles Robinson read the book and we talked about his memories versus my memories. Chris Jericho read the book, and then I was on Talk is Jericho talk, and we talked about how he remembered things, how I remembered things, how he saw things, how I saw things. So it was interesting, and that happened with a whole bunch of different people. So it was interesting to be able to see it, not only see it through my eyes, because a lot of that was so cathartic. It was like going to therapy, just telling Guy all this stuff, and I realized so many things that I never really thought about. I like answered my own questions a lot of times, because when you talk things out and you're being honest, sometimes it hits you. I don't think a lot about, oh, I wonder why this happened. I wonder why this happened. But if somebody asks you and you're right there doing your autobiography, you got to be on the ball. So yeah, the whole thing is crazy, but I'm really looking forward and to seeing my old friends. And I used to travel with Arn a lot, and so looking forward to that and to seeing him and just it's loaded down here in Tampa. So Guy Evans is even going to make an appearance to sign his books.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. And he has a new one coming out too,
I
right?
think that's the fan. Yeah, yeah, Beyond Nitro. I think his books are great, man. I was as lucky as I have been to get 30 years in the business. Um, I was almost as lucky, if not luckier, to be able to get him to be interested in writing my story. And what I was going to say, and I sort of got off topic because that's what I do, is if I like to do the fan fest and stuff. But if I never got in a ring announced again, that's great. That I have no regrets. 30, like I said, 30 years of living my dream. I was 11 years old. I was a little kid. I turned on Championship Wrestling from Florida. Dusty Rhodes, Superstar Billy Graham, Gordon Soley at the mic. I fell in love with it. It was my passion, and by darn, I was going to find a way to try to get in, but never believed in my wildest dreams that I could have achieved what I've achieved. So I'm just blessed and honored. And if anybody did the David Penzer voice, God bless you, man. I still don't believe it, but I'm not calling anybody a liar, but that's crazy.
Oh yeah,
Did you do
definitely.
hey Scott,
Sorry, what was that?
did you do the David Penzer voice? Not to put you on the
Um,
spot.
yeah, I mean a little bit. I mean when like where you're like the following contest live on Nitro, like stuff like that with putting put on the spot, not re but for the Cruiserweight
Yeah.
Championship, everyone kind of had the fake microphone and they're kind of doing the yeah.
That's mind blowing. That's crazy.
It just yeah, just it's like comfort food for me, like thinking about all those times and you were a regular part of that. And ring announcing doesn't get, the love that it deserves. I think now more there's an appreciation for it, I think, than it was back then. I don't know, I get that vibe, when Samantha Irvin left WWE, it became like the hugest thing ever. And I feel like social media is like a big part of that.
I
So
was going to say Samantha. Yeah, Samantha brought back people's interest in actually hearing people ring announce because she was so emotional and so real. I reached out to her and we had a nice back and forth on Twitter. In uh, what's the back line on Twitter called?
the
Not
DMs,
Messenger, but
the DMs.
Yeah, we had nice DM, and she knew who I was, and but she had an emotion about it, about introducing a match and even introducing a winner that you could really feel that I've never seen before in the history of the business. Now, Howard Finkel was the best of all time. No one's even close. Uh, there's no second place, third place, and fourth place. If there's a Mount Rushmore ring announcers, it's four faces of Howard. So let's get that out of the way. But Samantha did it in a different way that I've never seen anybody do it before. And yeah, she brought back people, and it's funny because WWE and most other companies didn't really used to pitch to the ring announcer these in this era. And when Samantha started, catching on, the announcers were pitching to her. They were, acknowledging her. They put her in the ring for the main events, and yeah, so she did a great thing, and she had to step aside and do what she needed to do with her life to live her dream. Appears that being a ring announcer was cool, but wasn't her dream. She wants to be a singer. She has a hell of a voice. Use the notoriety while you have it, and go record an album and live your dream. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all you could ask of anybody. But I know she loved doing it, and she loved being. She was passionate about it. But I think I saw something with her. I don't want to put words in her mouth where she felt like she was going to box herself into being a ring announcer and can never, be a singer or performer. So
Right.
she's young. She can always come back.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I'm not young, so I'm not.
You're not going to be in the ring. We're not going to see you in a match anytime soon.
No, no, no. I'm not young. I'm a couple years. I'm a year and a month away from 60. So nobody wants to see a balding 60-year-old guy on their TV. But I'll tell you what, Impact and Scott D'Amore gave me a hell of a run during COVID and after COVID, and then the send off that he gave me, which I go into detail in the book, is fantastic. Uh, you know, I'm not fooling myself. I'm not going into any Hall of Fames, but that send off that Scott gave me with the wonderful plaque and a wonderful speech, and my friends and coworkers and fans chanting "Thank you, Penzer," uh, makes me almost tear up thinking about it to this day. So that was a nice run. I wasn't expecting in any way, shape, or form, but I really appreciate and enjoyed.
Speaking of Hall of Fame, how do you feel about Lex Luger finally going into the WWE Hall of Fame after all he's been through? What do you make of his
I
story?
talk about Lex Luger and I talk about Lex Luger in both of my books. And the Lex Luger that I knew as in WCW was, look, I'm gonna be honest with you, was an arrogant prick. Uh, um, I'll never forget that after he went through all his stuff that he's gone through, uh, I didn't realize that TNA was bringing him down to do something with Sting. It was at Universal Studios. I go into vivid detail in my book, but I'll never forget. Uh, I was walking out of the production office, and Lex was in his wheelchair. He was about to go in. We were about, I don't know, 5 feet apart. Me going one way, him going the other way, and he goes, "Hey, Dave, how you doing?" And I said, "Hey, Lex, how's it going?" He said, "Good." He said, "I'm glad you're doing good. How's your family?" And I'm thinking, you never asked me how my family was. You wouldn't ask me how my family was if you put a gun in my head. So we had this nice conversation. And I called my wife as soon as I walked away. And I said, "You'll never guess what I just went through, experience." And I was convinced that either he was working or he had totally changed his life around. And I've been with him so many times since then at Fan Fest and different stuff, Starcast and stuff like that, and had in-depth conversations with him that there's not a doubt in my mind that he's sincere. There's no working. He's a changed person. And you know what? It's not how maybe part of the ride goes, it's how you finish the ride. And he's finishing the ride with class and dignity. And he was on my podcast. Smart guy, smart to the business. You wouldn't think as much, but we talked for 2 hours about the wrestling business, and very great sense of humor. So I'm really happy for Lex. I really am. Lex has had his issues. Obviously, they're well documented, and there's a lot of pain involved in that. And I don't, wouldn't want anybody in pain. But he's come out the other side as a wonderful human being, and uh, I don't think anybody deserves it more than Lex Luger.
That's awesome. And for a lot of people that don't know, besides ring announcing, and you have your book and in podcast you talked about other projects, but outside that, you do real estate, right? So talk a little bit about how that's gone as your this career that you found, and do you have a lot of wrestlers that are clients of yours over the years? Talk a little bit about that, or maybe fans.
A few I sold. A few I sold Jericho's house, one of Jericho's houses. Uh, but yeah, if you have you get to get posed with the World Heavyweight Realty Championship belt. It's like 25 pounds. It's heavy. It's a real belt. And but uh, but yeah, I like helping people, and I'll tell you what, it's not always this, but there's nothing more than I that I enjoy more at this point in my life than helping a first time buyer buy their first home. Uh, there's just something about it. If I was independently wealthy, I do it for free. Unfortunately, I'm not, so I have to take a commission. But there's just something about handing the keys to a homeowner for the first time in their life, whether they're 20 or 50. That just makes me so energetic and excited, to be able to do what I do. So yeah, that's my new passion, and that's not all I do. Like I said, if you're second, if you've owned 100 homes, I'll still help you find one. If you want to sell your home, I'll help you sell it. But that's what gets me up in the morning is helping first time home buyers.
I love that. And lastly, just let you go. What was the pinnacle moment for you when it comes to ring announcing? And was there a night or take me? I know you mentioned the TNA send off, but I mean through your WCW career, what really summed up your experience there? That one night that you always look back on it fondly.
It's not like I look back on it fondly, but if there's one show that you could say, oh, it's super cool that I was on this show, is when Goldberg beat Hogan in front of 45,000 people or whatever the crowd was, sold out in Atlanta. Uh, that was history. They're still doing documentaries about it. And I had so many cool moments in WCW and TNA and uh, you know, and Impact. But yeah, if I had to pick one, it's hard to pick one. But if I had to pick one, that's the one that jumps up at first in my head.
The energy of a WCW crowd just then, and just the ovation. I mean, I can't imagine being in that ring and with that surrounding energy around you. That's just got to be, that must have been incredible.
It was crazy. My family was there because we lived in Atlanta at the time. I'll never forget. Funny story. We were backstage at the Georgia Dome, and there's this young little up and coming rapper singer who was kind of backstage, kind of just somebody had gotten him in because he's a local guy and he had a good future, and he was taking pictures with some of the guys and stuff like that. And I went up and I shook his hand. I introduced myself to him. He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Hey, I'm David Penzer," and ring announcer. He goes, "Hey, great to meet you. I'm Usher."
What?
That worked out pretty good.
Yeah, I love seeing that. And then
Yeah,
you see all these
and I mean,
WC. Oh, go ahead.
I met a lot of and I met a lot of celebrities, knock on wood, but to see him, as this little, he was a nobody. Outside of Atlanta, he was a nobody. He's just a local guy, and now he's a huge star, and so good for him. And he got to live his dream, and but yeah, it just that's one story that I remember. It sticks in my head. I don't know why, because I'm not like a huge Usher fan or anything, but I just remember it because talk about living your dream. I mean, he's one of the top probably 10 artists in the world.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it sums up the times too, in the time of everything, how big when Usher was and WCW was. All right. Well, thank you so much, David, for the time.
Yeah,
Definitely check out David Penzer's books with Guy Evans. I believe it's guyevansbooks.com as well, has the books, but also the Glory Days Grapple Con that's
yeah,
coming
you
up.
can find it there too.
Yeah. And and then also get your tickets at
Yeah, that
tixfree.com.
FanFest is Yeah, that fan fest is stacked. It's going to be very intimate. It's not one of these, you hand your take a photo, hand them something to sign, and then they shoo you off. It's going to be very intimate. You're going to get to talk to your favorite stars. Like we said, we're going to do that Q&A, WCW Q&A for 2 hours. There's a party with after party with Jimmy Golden and Robert Fuller, two of my favorite people in the world. And I think there's a Friday night event with Nikita Koloff where you can hang with him. Like I think it's an open bar. So if you want an opportunity to be able to get to know your favorite stars, not just get to meet your favorite stars, I could guarantee you that you will have the time of your life. It's like wrestling fantasy camp, and I'm honored to be a part of it.
And it's so great to have these moments because you never know. I mean, I hate to be, morbid, but this is the time to get to sit on the learning tree and hear these great stories firsthand from those who lived it. So definitely looking forward to hearing all the great stories from that. And thank you so much, David, for the time. I really appreciate it.